Is the SAFE Act going to stop married women from being able to vote? Also, SNL is making fun of gay surrogacy, and yet another baby has been mauled to death by a pit bull. We've got the facts rebutting all of the grotesque pit bull propaganda on today's episode of Relatable. Hey guys, welcome to Relatable. Happy Tuesday. Hope everyone is having a wonderful week so far. If it sounds like I'm a little under the weather, it's because I am. I don't know if it's allergies. I spent all weekend outside, so that could be it. I don't know if I actually have a full-on cold. I thought that I avoided it. My whole family had colds going around a couple weeks ago, and I was like, yes, immune system stood strong, and now I might have finally succumbed to it. So now I have like my giant immunity vegetable fruit juice right here, and I'm trying to combat it. All right, so just a little recap of my weekend. For those of you who are interested in a little bit of a lesson within this too, I had so much fun speaking at Clemson University last Thursday night. So many of you were there. I did not realize that the room that I was speaking in would have a limited capacity. So about 75 to maybe even 100 of you showed up who weren't able because of the fire hazard of the overflowing room. You weren't actually able to attend and enter into the classroom. They had to close the door, and I was super sad about that. Turning Point USA did their best to accommodate everyone, and I was thankful. But to those of you who showed up and you weren't able to actually hear the talk, I'm so glad that I got to meet you, and I'm so grateful to all of you who drove all the way that you did and you showed up and you took the time to do that. I'm just so appreciative, and I'm glad that I got to chat with so many of you and that we got to take pictures and all of that good stuff. But thanks to Clemson, thanks to Turning Point, and thanks to all of you who showed up. We also got to see Chief Relatable and I, the Red Clay Strays, in concert on Friday night, which was super fun. We haven't been to a concert together. We were trying to remember the last time we went to a concert together. It's been a while. I think the last concert that I went to, something tells me that I'm wrong and I'm forgetting about something, but I think it was the Backstreet Boys, like 3 or so years ago, which was really fun. You know, it's very different when they're like 50. It's impressive. It's just different. And so we went to the Red Clay Strays because we're big fans. They're like kind of like rock and roll / country, but I was really impressed that the lead singer shared about his love for Jesus and his faith in Christ from the stage. It was a really sweet moment. We were in a sea of mostly drunk college students with like clouds of cigarette smoke and other kinds of smoke around us. And I was like, please, Lord, Holy Spirit, enter into the hearts of these people through this man sharing the gospel from the stage. I had a feeling that he was a Christian just based on his songs, but I hadn't really looked into his faith and things that he shared. So I was so happy just to hear that clarity, and that was a really good time. And then on Saturday, it was such a fun and full weekend. We got to spend so much time with family, and it was beautiful. And then on Saturday, Chief Relatable and I went to the Masters. And if you don't know, this is a golf tournament that happens in Augusta, Georgia every year. And it is such a special place. Augusta is such a special place, and I just want everyone to be able to go to the Masters once. If you're watching, you see this picture of Chief Relatable and I, and this is, okay, let me explain what this is, because I saw a comment on X saying, wait, I thought that they banned cell phones. How did you take this picture? And they do ban cell phones at Augusta. You cannot bring your cell phone in. You leave it in the car, or you can, I think, drop it off actually at the entrance of the tournament. But you can stand in line, and they do professional photos, and then you take a little card. It's got a QR code on it. Then when you get back to your phone, you can scan that QR code, and then it takes you to a web page where that picture is, and you can save it and share it and all that good stuff. But as we were standing in line for this picture, there were two guys ahead of us, probably in their early 20s, and then there were two women right in front of us who were probably in their 70s. And CR and I were just standing there and kind of watching their conversation unfold. The two guys turned around. They struck up the conversation with the older women, and they were just chit-chatting. The older women were from Germany. I wasn't meaning to eavesdrop, but it was kind of hard. You're all standing there together. And these two young guys from, somewhere in the US, probably from Georgia, and they just started talking for about 20 minutes about the differences in golf in Europe versus the United States. And CR and I were like, that conversation probably would not have happened if we all had our cell phones. I mean, the two young guys probably would have been scrolling and they would have been distracted. They wouldn't have even thought to turn around and talk to these women. But that's kind of what the day is like. It feels like you're going back in time. You are completely unplugged from the world. They do have these phone booths set up. So if there was some kind of emergency or if you needed to check in on your kids or something, you could call them. But there's not only no cell phones, but you can't even take in like any kind of camera. You're not taking pictures there. And so you are forced to focus on what is ahead of you in that moment. And when you walk in, it takes a little bit of an adjustment to not try to reach for your phone, because your first thought, or at least my first thought when I walk in, is that you want to take a picture. At least that was my first thought, because it's so beautiful. It's so picturesque. I mean, the grounds are just gorgeous. And if it's a beautiful spring day and it's sunny, oh my goodness, it's the most beautiful golf course I've been to. And I've seen a lot of beautiful golf courses, but it is so picture perfect. But that adjustment, it teaches you a lot about where your mind typically goes and how easily distractible you are. Not that it's wrong to take pictures, but how rarely we truly are just soaking up what is right in front of us for the sake of its beauty, for the sake of just being grateful for it. It's very easy for our minds to automatically and constantly think, how can I curate this? How can I share this? What will people say about this, rather than just saying, wow, this is beautiful, and leaving it at that. And not only does it change your brain regarding the scenery and your ability to live in the moment, but also, again, just the conversations that you have with the people that you're with and the people around you. There really does kind of feel like a camaraderie there. And I mean, you've got a lot of people from similar backgrounds and similar demographics, so there are a lot of commonalities, but you're all sharing in this moment that really no one, that so few people ever really get to experience, and that even the people watching from TV, they're not experiencing it like you are, because you are without your connection to the outside world. And it's just a really cool feeling. That was our third time, or my third time to go. CR has been several times, but we went in 2015 when we were just dating. We went a couple years ago in 2023 when I was like pretty pregnant, maybe almost third trimester. And the Friday or Saturday that we went, I can't remember. It was super rainy and really cold, and we walked like 20,000 steps or something like that. But I still had a great time. I had a great time this year. Very grateful to get to go. Had the pimento cheese sandwich, of course, had the chicken salad sandwich, had the barbecue sandwich. You eat a lot, okay? Because you're walking a lot. And so you eat a lot. But really, if I can be honest, the only thing that I think objectively tastes good, those things taste fine that I just listed, but they're not amazing. It's a novelty because they're very cheap. All the food there is really cheap. But the thing that actually tastes really good is the peach ice cream sandwich. And between the two sugar cookies, those taste amazing. And I'm not even a peach person, but I think I had like 3 of those ice cream sandwiches. So it was a really fun weekend. Again, I wish that everyone could go one time, because it's just so special. And I got to meet a lot of you there. That was really fun. There were a lot of you who came up to me. My husband and I like jokingly say TCM fans, the conservative millennial fans, but they're really relatable listeners and viewers. And I'm just so thankful. And it's cool to have those conversations and to not even have to think, oh, are we going to take a picture? Because you can't take a picture. And so I just had really like sweet, meaningful conversations with a lot of you who told me how much this show has meant to you and how God has used it in your life. And same when I was at Clemson too. And that's just so encouraging to me. I really do have the best and and most thoughtful and most prayingest and smartest and sweetest and prettiest audience in the world. And I'm so grateful for that. So anyway, that's a little recap of my weekend. It is Holy Week and Sunday was Palm Sunday, and we are looking forward to celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ. On Thursday, we will have Sean McDowell. He is a theologian, an apologist, and we will be talking about the resurrection and Easter and all of the theology surrounding that. On Thursday, it'll be a really encouraging and educational conversation. Just want to say before we get into it, if you have not gotten your tickets for Share the Arrows, now is the time. They're selling very quickly. I don't want you to miss out. If you are a woman in need of solid theology and encouragement, and you want to make lifelong friendships with other Christian women who are seeking those things too, then you need to sign up for Share the Arrows. I promise you it will be worth your while. So many of you last year, when you saw the recap video and we posted about it, you commented that you had FOMO. And I don't want you to have FOMO, okay? I'm looking out for you. I want you to come to Share the Arrows. If you go to sharethearrows.com, you can get your tickets there. We've got awesome speakers this year. We've got Ginger Duggar-Volo. We've got Elisa Childers. We've got Shauna Holman. We've got Taylor Dukes, Katie Faust, Francesca Battistelli. We've got yours truly. We've still got a couple others that we are announcing very soon, and that will close out our speaking lineup. And I'm just so excited. It's going to be so good. Praise God. Go to sharethearrows.com, get your tickets. It's only for women. So bring your women's small group, your mom, your sister, your friend, and go to sharethearrows.com. Okay, one more announcement before we get into today's subjects. We've got a new Relatable at Home episode coming out this Friday, April 18th, with Danielle Hitchen. I don't know if you have read those Baby Believer books. I've shared about them before. Absolutely love them. And she's the author of those books, but she is telling us basically how to order your home based on the rhythms of the historical church calendar rather than your, sports seasons, rather than the busyness of your job or school or whatever, but really ensuring that the rhythms of your lives are based on the rhythms that Christians have used for thousands of years to order their lives. So you can go to blazetv.com/Allie, use my code Allie. You'll get $20 off your subscription, and you'll have access to all Blaze TV content when you do that. So that's blazetv.com/Allie. All right, let me just go ahead. I got to get one ad out of the way, and then I promise we'll get into all the good stuff that we're covering. The first ad is from a new sponsor that I'm very grateful for. Talked to these guys last week from Fellowship Home Loans. They're amazing. They're a mortgage lending company that offers home financing solutions while integrating Christian values like honesty, integrity, stewardship. Their mission is to guide clients through the lending process with faith-based principles, helping them make wise financial decisions aligned with biblical teachings. I think we're seeing more and more how important it is to partner with people that think like we do, who share our values. I know with what I do very publicly, I am extremely intentional that when I'm working with, whether it's like a makeup artist or even someone who is coming to paint my house or anything, like I want to know what their worldview is. And I prefer in every instance that I can to work with Christians. I think that the process and communication just works a lot better when I know that someone shares my values. And this is especially true when it comes to our money. When you're buying something as big as a house, you want to make sure that the people helping you do that believe the same things you do and have the same foundation of biblical truth that you do. That's why you need to work with Fellowship Home Loans. Mike and Brian at Fellowship Home Loans, they take this very seriously. They take the Christian mission and helping you through your home loan process very seriously. Right now, if you go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/Allie, you can get $500 towards your closing with them. Go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/Allie. Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, doing business as Fellowship Home Loans, equal housing lender, NMLS number 819382. Okay, let's get into the SAVE Act. So many of you have been asking me about this because you've been seeing the Instagram and TikTok videos going around by these liberal female activist influencers saying that this SAVE Act, which stands for the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, HR 22, it was introduced in the House on January 3rd, 2025. It passed the House Thursday last week, and they're saying that, oh my goodness, this is going to stop married women from voting specifically. And if you listen to these influencers without digging for yourself, you would think that the bill actually says, hey, married women, if you change your name, you're not going to be able to vote. Doesn't matter if you voted since 1965, you're not going to be able to vote because you're women. And that is, voter suppression. They're just trying to steal a woman's right to vote. This is really the Handmaid's Tale because they don't want women to vote because they know that women typically vote Democrat. Okay, first of all, let me just debunk that before we get into anything the bill actually says, which, spoiler alert, it doesn't actually say that. Married women tend to vote Republican, though. So if this is like a Republican strategy to suppress the married women vote specifically, that would actually go against Republican interests. It's single women that tend to vote Democrat. So if Republicans were just trying to steal, Democrat votes away or steal Democrat votes away and suppress the vote of people who tend to be more liberal, this would not be the strategy. They would not want to suppress the married female vote. So what would be the intention behind all of this? The truth is, though, is that these influencers, including Hillary Clinton, as we will get to, they're fear-mongering. They're lying. And if you haven't realized at this point, especially watching the craziness of the election and how they used all of these half-truths and pieces of propaganda to convince you that you are going to be criminally charged for having a miscarriage. If you haven't realized that these are bad faith actors that are trying to scare you for the purpose of making you vote Democrat, then I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so just start when something sounds too bad to be true, start with the assumption that it's a lie. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, just start with the assumption that what they are telling you isn't true, which I know a lot of you do start with that assumption. And that's why I get messages saying, can you please debunk this, which I am happy to do. Anytime a lie specifically targets women, like I want to break it down. That's why I wrote the 2 books that I did, You're Not Enough and Toxic Empathy, because this is what Democrats do. They emotionally manipulate people who are susceptible to emotional manipulation. A lot of times that is women, to try to get you to believe that being progressive is necessary to be a good person or to protect yourself or to protect the most vulnerable. And it's just not true. It's lie after lie after lie. And as Christians, we are obligated to think. We don't just feel. Feeling is not bad, but feeling void of critical thinking and asking discerning questions is bad. It leads you to a bad place. So let's think about this. Let's talk about this. So according to the bill's text, this SAVE Act, individuals must provide documentary proof of U.S. citizenship when registering to vote in federal elections. That is the stated purpose of this legislation, both in the media that you will see, not left-wing media. What I'm trying to say is this is how Republicans are talking about it, but it also happens to be a true representation of what the bill sets out to accomplish. So here are some examples of the documentary proof that is legitimate, that is valid. So that could include a passport, a birth certificate, or a driver's license or state-issued ID that is marked as Real ID compliant and indicates U.S. citizenship. And we'll talk about Real ID in a second. If one's government photo ID is not Real ID compliant or does not show that they were born in the United States, a birth certificate or other proof of citizenship must also be provided to register to vote. States are prohibited from accepting, according to this legislation, hasn't passed the Senate yet, they're prohibited from accepting or processing voter registration applications unless this proof is provided at the time of application. However, the states are also required to make reasonable accommodations for applicants who cannot provide the standard documents but can demonstrate citizenship by other means. So the bill targets new voter registrations and updates to existing registrations, such as with a name or address change. So those who are already registered to vote will not be impacted unless they are purged from the voter roll due to unlawful presence, so you're not here legally, or due to the aforementioned name or address change. So if you change your name or if you change your address, if you change your name, say you're getting married, then you need to make sure that your documents are all updated, that you have your driver's license with your new name, that you're registered under your new name. However, even if you have changed, say you've changed your name, you change your last name because you're married. If you have a real ID that has your maiden name on it, you're probably going to be able to vote with that, because I'm not reading anything in here that says that they are going to check to see in some kind of database that you have changed your name after being married. I actually don't really understand what the liberal activists are saying this bill is going to do to hinder women from being able to vote. You need to change your documentation if you're changing your name anyway. After I got married, I had to get a new passport that matched my name change. I had to get a new driver's license. And in order to do that, you need your marriage certificate, you need your old passport or your old driver's license, and you have to take it to a place, and you have to do all of these things in order to get that done. Yeah, of course, because it's important. They want to make sure that you're really a citizen of this country, that you really are who you say you are. And that's for the purpose of national security. That is part of what it means to be a citizen. You have to have correct documentation that shows the country that you are a citizen of when you are traveling internationally, when it comes to a passport, for example. So it makes sense that you would have to provide documentation to prove who you are, where you are a citizen, in order to vote. That's just common sense to me. But the argument is that, okay, all of these things, making sure that your ID is real ID compliant, making sure that if it's not, that you have your passport or your birth certificate, well, that's going to be really difficult for poor people to vote, or people who don't have their marriage license, so they can't figure out the name change thing, or people who just find it difficult to find things. These are really the arguments that are being made. And so you hear a lot of people from the left saying that this is voter suppression. This is what the right is trying to do. They're trying to keep poor people, Black people, minorities from voting. But here's what I want to know. Like, what is their alternative? What's the alternative to this? If providing documentation that proves that you are who you say you are, that you are a citizen of this country, is too much of a burden to bear for someone to vote, then what is the less burdensome and more efficient way to prove those things? Because it seems to me what the Democrats are arguing is that there should be no legal barriers at all, that there should be no proof of citizenship or identification required. And actually, we know that in many Democrat-run states, they have done away with any voter ID law, saying, oh, there's no proof of widespread fraud. By the way, saying there's no proof of does not mean there's proof that there isn't. And actually, I think that we've seen a lot that proves that our system, especially where there is not voter ID law, that it's very vulnerable to fraud and corruption. And so don't we, as people who care about our country's sovereignty, who should care about democracy, right? We're supposed to be champions of democracy, according to the left. Don't we want to protect the integrity of our elections to make sure only real people, living people, and citizens are voting? And so there may be some extra steps that a woman has to go through after she has changed her name to ensure that all of her documents match, including her passport and her driver's license, by the way. And yeah, this just, it might add on another layer to that. It's all part of the process. Our associate producer, Kimberly, she just got married. She just changed her name. And as she's going through this process, she asked about this. Okay, do I need to make sure that my voter registration is up to date? And she was able to do those updates all at the same time. It's really not as complicated and as burdensome as the left is making it out to be. And again, they are not offering a viable alternative that helps us actually secure the integrity of our elections. All right, let me tell you what Real ID is really quickly, because I like to define my terms. If you're worried about that, just really quickly, I'm going to tell you what it is. But let me pause, tell you about our second sponsor for the day, and that is Good Ranchers. With tariffs going into effect, families across the country are bracing for what they are afraid might be a wave of price increases at the grocery store. And why are they afraid of that? They are afraid of that because a lot of the meat is being imported from abroad. And so there might be new tariffs on those countries. And they are afraid that that is going to result in price increases. And if you want more info on that, go listen to my episode with my dad. But Good Ranchers doesn't have to worry about that because all of their meat is raised and harvested right here. They've got a 100% American supply chain. So you don't have to worry about your meat prices going up due to tariffs. And it is a really convenient way to make sure that you are eating healthy, all American meat. It shows up at your front door every month on dry ice. You can get seafood, you can get chicken, you can get ground beef, you can get all different cuts of meat. It's also giving you, Good Ranchers is also giving you your pick of free meat for life when you subscribe right now. Plus, when you use my code Allie, you get $40 off your order. Go to goodranchers.com, code Allie. Okay, maybe you have been hearing about Real ID for a long time because for almost 20 years, the government has been saying that the requirement to have a Real ID in order to travel is going to be enforced, but it's continually deferred. And now, finally, Kristi Noem is saying, nope, it's about to be enforced. On May 7th, 2025. That means in order to travel, you have to have what's called a Real ID. It's typically a driver's license or state-issued ID marked with a star or a similar symbol to show it complies with these standards. And by the way, all states have been compliant with issuing a Real ID since September 2020. So it is very likely that you have a Real ID if you've gotten your license updated just in the last few years. And so this is just another layer of security. It's just another layer of voting security. So when Hillary Clinton says, are you a woman who changed your name when you got married? Congress is considering a bill that can make it much harder for you to vote. Call your rep. This is not a drill. This is just fear-mongering. Eric Swalwell, also a Democrat, says the SAVE Act, he says it's the Save the Republicans A-Words Act is a shameless attempt to block Americans, especially married women, from voting, requiring birth certificates to cast a ballot. That's not election security. That's voter suppression. And Representative Mark Pocan says, under the Republican SAVE Act, your driver's license won't be enough to vote. You need a passport, which more than half of Americans don't have and costs at least $130, a birth certificate, or a birth certificate with your current legal name, which nearly 70 million American women or married women lack, or military service papers with sensitive info. This is modern day Jim Crow that restricts access to the ballot box. Again, if you have a Real ID, if you have that driver's license, that's good to go. It's really not that difficult. And again, I'm not hearing anything from these guys about like what is the alternative to make sure our elections are secure. They don't want there to be any verification at all. And let me just reiterate, Republicans do not want married women not to be able to vote since we typically vote Republican. So I hope that makes you feel better about all of that craziness. All right, let's move on to your favorite subject, all of your favorite subject, and that is pitbulls. Okay, I'm not talking about Mr. Worldwide. I always feel like I need to clarify that. I am talking about the kind of dog that I don't want to say I detest, but I don't think that they should be legal. I don't, because of the loss of life that they cause. And I am tired of talking about these stories where another baby or another toddler dies because a family allowed what they mistakenly call their nanny dog to lay down next to their child, to play with their child, and that child is mauled to death. I'm tired of talking about these stories. I'm tired of seeing these headlines. I am tired of us being a Romans 1 people, that we serve the creature rather than a creator. And so we have disordered affections and disordered priorities where we feel more of an inclination to defend a certain breed of dog than we do to defend human life. Like, that is a spiritual issue. And whenever I talk about this, I see a truly spiritual blindness among those who will, without condition or caveat, defend owning pit bulls. And they won't even express any sympathy for the baby that died, or the toddler that was mauled, or the elderly person that was killed, or the other pet or the cat that was killed. Like, no sympathy for that, just immediate, almost like a pit bull, rabidly defending this very, on average, aggressive breed. Okay. But I have to talk about it. I try not to talk about it a lot, but I do talk about it, and I only talk about it because I care about human life. That is the only reason I talk about this. Some people, I don't know, think I have I don't even know what they could be. Some kind of nefarious, self-serving motives in talking about this. Not at all. I lost over 1,000 followers on Instagram, or at least I don't even know how many, but my little number went down on Instagram. I didn't even check after I talked about this. I don't care. I don't care how many people get angry about this. We'll talk about this because this little girl's life matters. So on Wednesday, April 9th, a 7-month-old infant, Eliza Turner, was mauled to death by one of her parents' 3 pit bulls in their home near Columbus, Ohio. So we don't have all of the details, what was going on at this time when the baby was mauled to death. She's just a precious little girl. The pictures of her just look like a happy, sweet, healthy baby. I'm sure that her parents loved her very much and probably thought that they were doing the right thing and keeping her safe, because they had probably imbibed all the propaganda that some of you out there are helping push, that these are nanny dogs, that these are protective dogs, that it's all about how you raise them, that it's not the breed. And they had probably loved these dogs since they were puppies. So just know that every time you push the propaganda that these dogs are safe, that they're okay around children, that they're nanny dogs, someone is listening to that and they are internalizing that lie, and they are deeming it okay to have their dogs around babies. And that leads to the higher likelihood that a baby or a toddler or child in their life is going to be mauled by one of those dogs. Know that your words defending the domestication of these dogs, which were never meant to be house pets, can lead to the loss of life. I'm not holding you directly responsible. I'm just saying your words matter. Make sure that you are always on the side of defending human life and not defending animals whom you think get a bad rap. Okay, so according to Columbus police, the parents took Eliza to the nearby fire station, and then she was transported to the local children's hospital where she was pronounced dead. And I'm just so sad. And even though I think these parents made a mistake, I'm devastated for them. I'm devastated for them because I know they realize now that they've made a huge mistake and that they believed a lie, but I wish it hadn't gotten to this. The Columbus Police Department ruled the incident an accident, will not be filing charges against the parents. They passed the investigation off to Franklin County Animal Control, who will decide what to do with the dogs after completing their investigation. I don't know if that's the right move, not to file charges against the parents. I do think that anyone who owns pit bulls, that you should be licensed, that you should have to sign something that says that you should be licensed under the condition that you have legal liability for anyone that this dog maims, harms, kills. And I don't know that the people owning the pit bull should have the same punishment for actually direct murder that actual direct murderers get. But I think it should be hefty. And I think people would think twice before breeding them and before owning them. If you will have to pay the legal cost of whatever damage your dog does, especially this kind of dog, because you are owning this dog, taking on a risk to the vulnerable people around you. Like, I think that there should be something there. When police arrived on the scene, an unidentified man outside the home told officers that the family had owned the dog since they were puppies. Of course, people will say it's the owners, it's the owners, it's the owners. They're bred to be aggressive. That's not true. It's not true. It's not true.
How long have they had the dog?
Since they were born. A long time, yeah. Just
since the dog was born?
Yep.
Yeah.
A couple of years. They got 2 other ones in there.
Okay, so since the dogs were born, this is what I hear over and over again from these stories. Those 2 little kids that were killed in Nashville a couple years ago, I think it was 2022, actually. They had 2 pit bulls that they had owned since puppies, just a very sweet looking family, and had defended pit bulls on Facebook before. No one's going to take away our pit bulls. Randomly, out of the blue, those pit bulls mauled the 5-month-old baby and the toddler little girl and put the mom in the hospital who was trying to defend her babies. And again, you learn too late that you were wrong to imbibe the pit bull propaganda. And it's just very, very sad. Eliza's mother posted on Facebook April 12th, "I will never understand why. I am so lost and broken. This was the same dog who was side by side with my baby every day." And then she posted all of these pictures of the pit bull next to the baby. And I guarantee she posted these pictures originally thinking that she was going to convince people, see how loving and kind these pit bulls are. Eliza's father wrote on Facebook, "I'd give my life to bring my baby back." And I believe that. I can't imagine how traumatized they are. I cannot imagine how traumatized these parents are. I absolutely believe that they are broken over this, and they believed a lie. And this lie that pit bulls are okay as a pet, especially to be around children, it costs lives. Just know that. And we'll get into the stats in just a second. Let me pause and tell you about our next sponsor. It's Hillsdale College. Don't send your kids to a communist indoctrination factory. It doesn't matter how prestigious it is. It doesn't matter that you think that going to this Ivy League school or even this great state school is going to help them with their networking, is going to help them with their future jobs. You just don't want to risk it. And hopefully your child has been discipled their whole lives, and so they have a good foundation, but college is still a very formative time. Why not send them to a place that is going to reaffirm and re-strengthen their faith and their biblical worldview? That's why Hillsdale College exists. Hillsdale College teaches their students how to think and teaches them about the Christian foundations of our country, and is not only a prestigious university, but also is going to help deepen your children's faith. And right now they're offering more than 40 free online courses in the most important and enduring subjects. You can learn about the works of C.S. Lewis, the stories in the book of Genesis, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, or the history of the ancient Christian church with Hillsdale College's online courses. They are all available for free. Go to hillsdale.edu/relatable and to enroll in any of the courses. But a really interesting one is Understanding Capitalism, so you can refute all the socialistic lies. hillsdale.edu/relatable. All right. Let me tell you some other stories, because this happens over and over again. This is not just once or twice. This is not just once a year. I see these stories all the time. And a lot of times I don't talk about them because I'm like, okay, maybe I've made my point. But then, y'all send me these stories pretty consistently. And every now and then I just have to drive home the point once again. And I can't tell you how many people message me and say, this changed my mind. I did own a pit bull and then I surrendered it. And I now am more cautious around my family member or around my neighbor who is a pit bull. One of you the other day said that you were at a park. Someone had their pit bull off leash. No dog should be off leash at a park, by the way, ever. But their pit bull was off leash at the park. And you said that you and a group of moms, that you confronted this man and basically in the best way possible, bullied him into leashing his dog and taking his dog away. That's raising a respectful ruckus for the things that matter. The things that matter in that case is the lives of your children. So some just recent stories, again, There are so many. I'll just give you a small sample size. In Texas, 2024, a 1-year-old boy died after being mauled by pit bulls at a babysitter's home. In Converse, Texas, where the babysitter left him in the care of her 13-year-old daughter, the daughter was also bitten. So when people say it's an owner problem, I don't disagree in that like there's irresponsibility here. There's almost always some level of stupidity going on, but it's not just the owners. In Visalia, California, September 2024, 4-year-old girl Zoe Hawkins was fatally mauled by her family's pit bull. The attack occurred as she exited a pool at home. The dog was her constant companion with no prior aggression and turned on her suddenly. In Memphis, Tennessee, 2022, this is the story that I was talking about earlier. I think I said Nashville. It was actually Memphis. This is the Independent. Reported this 5-month-old Holstein, 2-year-old Lily Jane were killed by their family's 2 pit bulls outside of their home. Again, they had had these pit bulls for 8 years with no prior incidents, and thankfully they were euthanized. Pico Rivera, California, April 2022. According to ABC, a 1-year-old girl was attacked by her family's 2 pit bulls at their home after she began crying. So the baby started crying. This little girl started crying. That triggered something in the dogs, and they mauled her. She suffered a fractured hip and bites to her leg, shoulder, and ear. Her mother and 2 other women were also injured trying to stop the dogs, and the mother was bitten on her lip and near her eye. All 4 victims were hospitalized. Thankfully, it sounds like this 1-year-old girl actually survived, but gosh, there are so many stories on Instagram. There's a little boy named JJ who was almost fatally mauled by a pit bull. He was attacked and has suffered so many grave injuries in his little life. There's that skateboarder, Bree. I forget her name. I know you follow her on Instagram. But she was just in the kitchen with her, I think her cousin and a pit bull, and the pit bull jumped up and took off her top lip.
Yeah, the whole top lip. She was a model too, so her income was coming from her face essentially.
Yeah.
And yeah, over the past couple of years, she's had to reconstruct her whole face because of it.
Yeah. And I mean, she's still beautiful, but her entire top lip, I mean, that also makes it very difficult. It's not just aesthetic purposes. It makes it very difficult to live and to eat and to drink and all of that stuff. And so those are just some examples of these horrific cases of pit bulls or dogs that are half pit bulls just turning on their owners. And that's the thing about pit bulls, is they might be sweet for a very long time, but something that I think we don't quite understand triggers them the way other dogs may not be triggered. And I hear a lot, well, Chihuahuas bite and Dachshunds bite and all of these other dogs bite. Yeah, they do, but they don't maul. Because it's not just the aggression of pit bulls. It's not just their instinct, is that they are so strong and their jaws are so strong. And when they hang on, they do not let go. They try to tear. And so let me define what a pit bull is, because a lot of people they're like, you don't even know what a pit bull is. And it's true. It is hard to know in every situation how much of a pit bull a dog is, but you can see a pit bull. It's got that big triangle head. It's got that stocky body, very muscular. It doesn't refer to a single dog breed. It's commonly used to describe a group of breeds and mixes known for their muscular build, their strength, historical association with dog fighting. American Pit Bull Terrier, American Staffordshire Terrier, that's typically the main one, Staffordshire Bull Terrier, sometimes an American Bully. Probably the most common ones are Pit Bull Terrier and Staffordshire Terrier. When people say I have a Staffordshire Terrier, that is them not wanting to tell you that they have pit bull. Okay? Don't go to their house. History of pit bulls. This is according to the ASPCA, who, they don't agree with me, I'm sure, about the danger of pit bulls, and these places are always trying to get you to adopt pit bulls. Let me tell you about who they are, because a lot of people you will hear say, they're a nanny dog. My pancake would never hurt a fly. My little sweet pancake made oatmeal for my baby this morning and rocked her to sleep. And I can't believe that you're saying that she would ever hurt someone. But that's not really the history of them. So they were actually bred for bull baiting in England, primarily between the 16th and early 19th centuries, okay? So they were created by human beings, like a lot of dogs were, the particular breeds that we have were typically bred by humans for a particular purpose at some point. Very popular between the 16th and 19th centuries for things like hunting, even for things like warmth. So bull baiting was a popular blood sport during this time, where dogs were set upon a tethered bull, aiming to immobilize it by biting and holding its nose or face and not letting go. So when they bred this pit bull terrier or Staffordshire terrier, they were trying to get characteristics of a dog that was very aggressive, that was very strong, and that could hold on to the throat of a very strong, big animal like a bull and not let go until the bull died. Okay? It had to be that strong. That's a really strong dog to be able to immobilize a bull. And you think your toddler can stand a chance against that? It can't. He or she can't. Breeders selected dogs for traits that made them effective. As I just said, they needed to have raw power to tackle livestock. They had to have success in baiting, which required a dog to latch onto the bull's sensitive areas like the snout and hold on despite thrashing. These dogs were bred for powerful jaws and a bite and hold instinct, which became the defining trait. Okay? The defining trait when these dogs were being bred was the bite and hold ability. That is why these dogs maul. I've been bitten by a dog that's not a pit bull. The other day, it wasn't the other day, it was like 2 years ago. I was on a walk and these two guys were behind me, and I don't know why they were that close to me, like, back up, give me some space. But they had their dog on a leash. It was a black lab. I love black labs. Just randomly bit me on the back of the calf. One time CR was on a run and someone's little chihuahua came out of their house and bit him on the back of the leg, like left a bruise. So other dogs can bite, but they don't all employ this tactic of biting and holding and not letting go until their victim is dead. Okay? So when people say it's not the breed, that's delusional. That's just not educated, okay? And at this point, you don't have an excuse not to be educated. Like, you know that breeds have an innate instinct, okay? You don't have to teach a golden retriever to retrieve. You don't have to teach an Australian shepherd to shepherd. You don't have to teach a lab to swim, okay? All of these things are innate characteristics in their breed, and the biting, the holding, the attacking is an innate instinct that pit bulls have, even part pits have. And it might never be aroused in their life, but something, and you never know when, and you never know what, at some point can trigger that instinct that they have in the back of their mind, and they're going to do it. Okay, they can't really help it. It's not really like their fault. It's just something that they are born with. Okay? And actually, bull baiting was banned in England in 1835. And so the breeding then it shifted for some of these dogs towards illegal dog fighting or other roles like hunting and guarding, but their bull baiting origins left a lasting imprint on their physical and behavioral traits. Okay? According to dogsbite.com, and again, it's hard to know the exact methodology of these studies, but they do have the numbers from 2010 to October 2023 on the 478 fatal dog bites in the United States. 196 of these came from pit bulls. That 60% had pit bulls in their bloodline. 60%. Despite making up a very small population of the dog population, I think it's like 6% of the dog population, they account for like 60% of fatal dog bites. 7% had Rottweiler, 4% had German Shepherd. 80% of severe dog bites in children involve the head and neck. Of the data that this organization has collected since 2010, they say that pit bulls are 2.5 times more likely to bite in multiple anatomical locations than other breeds. Pit bull terriers are 48% more likely to attack without provocation than other breeds. Pit bull attacks have higher morbidity rates, higher hospital charges, and a higher risk of death than attacks by other breeds. It is more likely that their attacks will cause facial injuries that will require more surgeries. If you talk to like anyone in the ER who has had to deal with these serious dog bites, almost all of them will say, yeah, the worst dog bites that we see come from these pit bulls. When examining a 13-year data set, 54 fatal attacks included a dog killing its primary owner. Pit bulls were the cause of 63% of those deaths, over 8 times more than any other type of dog. One study, Mortality, Mauling, and Maiming by Vicious Dogs, published in 2011, conducted by researchers at the University of Texas Health Science Center, analyzed dog bite-related injuries and fatalities over a 5-year period in the U.S., and it found that pit bulls were associated with a higher proportion of severe injuries and fatalities compared to other breeds. Pit bulls accounted for approximately 41% of dog bite-related fatalities during the study period, despite being a relatively small percentage of the dog population. All right. The facts are there. The numbers are there. Okay? Make a decision that is based on wisdom. Make a decision that is based on reality. Honestly, like I could have a section in my book, Toxic Empathy, about pit bull apologists. It's like the same thing. It is showing more empathy for a dog than it is for the victims of their attacks. And toxic empathy blinds you to reality and morality. That is certainly the case when it comes to pit bulls. Now, if you are a person that you're like, I have a pit bull. I like my pit bull. I never allow my pit bull around children. I keep my pit bull in my backyard. I am very careful about it. I am as careful with my pit bull as I am with my gun. All right. Then I think, that's fine. You can do what you want. I still think it should be illegal to breed them. I think that you have to have a license to own them, that you have to take on the legal liability of whatever harm they cause. And that's my nicer alternative to just eradicating the breed altogether. Again, care about human life more than you care about these dogs, okay? Some people say, well, God created these dogs. Yeah, he also created tigers. I don't think that you should take one to the park. All right. Last little segment of the day. Let me pause and tell you about our last sponsor. It's Preborn. Preborn is a network of clinics across the country that helps women keep their babies by providing free sonograms and free services and free pregnancy and baby items. And the way they provide all of these things for free is through your generosity. So when you partner with Preborn, you are helping save the lives of these little babies and helping their moms and dads know the love of Christ through your donations. If you go to preborn.com/Allie, you can donate. If you donate $28, you are sponsoring one ultrasound. We know that if a woman has an ultrasound while she's pregnant, she is so much more likely to choose life for her baby. Go to preborn.com/Allie. That's preborn.com/Allie. Okay, I just got to play this SNL skit. I personally don't think most things on SNL are funny. And I love to laugh, okay? It's not just because they're liberal. It's not just because they're crass. Like, I can see the humor in things that I disagree with. Even if someone is making fun of a conservative or a Christian, I might not appreciate it, but I can see how people think it's funny. Like, I love all different kinds of humor. I love comedians. I love it. So I would love to love SNL. Like, I would love to enjoy it even if it doesn't align with my values. And even the skit that I'm about to play you, I literally didn't crack a smile. Even though I appreciate what it is mocking, I was like, this is literally not funny. I don't see how people think that this is like clever. But I do appreciate what they did, okay? Because this actually deserves mockery. So last Saturday, April 12th, Saturday Night Live aired an episode hosted by Jon Hamm with musical guest Lizzo. Lizzo's not a part of this, but she was a musical guest. I guess we needed to note that. One of the ensemble sketches called Family Dinner took place at a chaotic dinner party where guests shared increasingly bizarre personal updates. A short segment from the sketch has been making the rounds in which a gay couple is asked how they acquired their newborn baby. Here's shot 3.
Oh my gosh, whose baby is that?
Excuse me? It's ours.
Wait, but how?
Okay, I'm sorry, but gay people can't have a baby?
Yeah, but like, where did it come from?
Excuse me?
Excuse me?
Wow, you are not allowed to talk like that.
That is so invasive.
Okay, but like we were with you last night and you did not have a baby.
Yeah, and you guys said that after dinner you were going to go to a rave called Bulge Dungeon, and now today you have a baby.
What we're asking is, how did this happen?
I think we're just wondering who the mother is. Hey, well, between the two of us, I'm more emotional, and I like shopping, so me, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, I have long hair and he is an alcoholic, so I guess it's like two moms, I guess? Yeah.
Guys, how did you get this baby?
What do you want us to say, that we stole her?
Did you?
Well, we like to think of it as she stole us.
So does that mean yes?
Okay, so there are two different ways to see this. Either you can see it as using comedy to normalize two men purchasing a baby, or you can see it as a big vibe shift that we are actually starting to mock and deride something that deserves our mockery and derision because it is a legitimate question. How could two men who do not have the genetic material nor the wombs to create and bear children have a child? And that line about last night you were talking about going to Bulge Dungeon and now you have a baby and we're just wondering how to square that circle. That is a good one. That was the best line because if you see a lot of these men who are purchasing children, you do have some questions like, do you know the first thing about raising a child? Like, do you have any kind of instinct for nurturing that is biologically hardwired in the women who create and carry their own children? And so I appreciate that, whatever the motive is, that we are in the mode right now of mocking something that is absolutely depraved and destructive. And that is the purposeful creation of motherless children. These children deserve all of our compassion. They deserve us to ask good questions. They deserve that we stop making them, forcing them to be the subjects of progressive social experiments. Every child has a right to a mom and a dad. And the fact that in the name of toxic empathy, in the name of love is love, in the name of tolerance and inclusion, we are sacrificing them on the altar of LGBTQ inclusion. It's really sad. It's cruel. They can't consent to this, and they will suffer from it. So I'm sure SNL and I aren't on the same side when it comes to this, when it comes to surrogacy, but maybe this will get people thinking about something that really deserves our scrutiny. All right, that's all we got time for today. We will be back here tomorrow.